Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I want to present dust-jacketed newsstand library paperbacks along with the other variant covers. So the company that created Newsstand Library was called Export Publishing Enterprises. It was a company that came into being in late 1946, although the company was around before that under a different name since late 1944. The company was headed by three people: Stanley Schrag, who was the president, and Martin Kastner, who was the print manager, who was the father of a Canadian actor named Peter Kastner, and Frank Raymond Steele was the editor. He was the older brother of the Canadian comic book writer and artist Ted Steele, who created Speed Savage. The company began publishing newsstand library series back in 1948, and it lasted until 1950, when the company came to a sudden end in December of that year due to a fire that destroyed their plant and offices. Stanley Schrag, who was the president, later went on to form the short-lived Studio Publications in late 1951. He later moved to the U.S. and formed the American Newsstand Library series in the late 1950s. He later went on to form Neva Books, which was the publisher of Playtime Magenta and several other sleaze imprints before moving to the hardcore paperbacks. There were three series in the Canadian newsstand library run: one for the Canadian market, which served the bulk of the publications, one for the U.S. market with books numbered from 1A to 28A, and 20 of the A series books appeared with dust jackets, and that's what you're going to look at, and I'll show you the variant covers also, as I said. Only the A series had dust jackets. So you're looking at No Place in Heaven, as by Laura Warren, and you can see it's a dust jacketed book, and that's the cover. And here is this is the A series for the American market. It's called No Place in Heaven. And this is the same, almost the same cover. It's called I Confess. And we have Let Out the Beast. And I'll see if I can flip that carefully here. Yeah, that's the cover there. And here's the American. And yeah, this is the Canadian one. All right. And this is science fiction. World destroyed by an atomic blast, as by Leonard Fisher. And this is Dirty City, What the Chamber of Commerce Neglected to Tell, as by Michael Young. Dirty City. And that's the cover, dust jacketed cover. And then you have this one. This is the American. And this is the variant cover and title. It's called Sin City. All right. So anyway, this is paperback eye candy for those who are into collecting vintage paperbacks. This is In Passion's Fiery Pit. This is by Joy Brown. And again, we'll just flip through. So I don't want to, because it is glued there on the spine. So that's that. That's the cover there for the, yeah, this is the American. And this is, yeah, this is the Canadian MDS. And you can tell it's a different cover, a different title, different cover. And it's called Murdered Mistress. And here's another gorgeous cover. This is by Warren Desmond. Really, the writer is a guy named Dyson Carter, Canadian writer. This is The Governor's Mistress. What does it say here at the back? Just to get a little sense of what these stories are about. Here is the story of a woman who came to spy and found love, a strange, fierce, shameless love with a man who planned to teach her how to spy and found himself bound forever by her passion. So that's The Governor's Mistress. And there's the Dyson Carter is the writer, as by Warren Desmond, the pseudonym. Virile, violent, warm, wicked. This was Angeline. Okay, so that's that. And here's the Canadian version. Spine roll. Let's just have a look here. Yeah. That's that. And then we have one called Pickup, as by Leslie Scott. And there you go. So just to give you a sense, there's similar covers to this. Okay, Cable News, so that's the American one. And that's Pickup. And MDS is the Canadian. This is similar cover. Take your pick. Which is the best cover of these two? Usually the dust jackets are the favorite covers for these people who collect these books. And this is Overnight Escapade. That's by Stephen Mark. And here's the cover. The American. And you have the Canadian MDS. Nice, beautiful, crisp copy of that. All right. And here's another beautiful dust jacket. Notice that these are like one tone type color covers, eh? So this one's purple, this one's kind of grayish blue, this one's green, this one's also a kind of light green. This is by Al Palmer. So that's that. That's Sugar Puss on Dorchester Street. And here's the cover. That's by Al Palmer. Racy, risque, but warmly human, an unforgettable story. And then we have this cover. Sugar Puss on Dorchester Street, as by Al Palmer. The best-selling novel about Montreal. So, Canadian writer. All right. So that's that. And there's more. This is Daughters of Desire by Fletcher Knight. And the American Daughters of Desire. And this is the Canadian one, MDS. All right. So I'm just going to pause it, and then I'm going to show you there's more. So I'll show you the entire run of the dust jacketed newsstand libraries. I'm just going to pause. So this one is Death Be My Destiny, as by Neil H. Perrin, Canadian writer. And here's the American newsstand library. And this is the Canadian. And you can just take a look inside just to see the dust jacket. Just carefully. There you go. So different covers, but kind of nice. All right, just center that a bit. The next one is Frustration by Henry C. Clayton. And let's just flip this. I'm just curious. Yeah. And of course, this is for the American market. This one. This is Frustration, as by Henry C. Clayton. And then we have this one. This is the same book, different writer, H.G. Henderson. Different pseudonym, I should say. All right. And then we have Torch of Violence with a needle cover, as by David Forrest, but in reality is Ted Steele, the Canadian comic book writer who used to write for Bell Features. So that's Torch of Violence. And then we have, this is the American one, Torch of Violence, and the Canadian one. All right. Imprisoned Men, Loose Women. And this one says fascinating from cover to cover. And then we have Joanna by Grant R. Brooks. Yellow cover, notice. Blue cover from the previous one. I'm just going to be careful here, just to see the dust jacket. There you go. This was Joanna. So this is a more violent cover, obviously. All right, Grant R. Brooks. Oh, this David Forrest. This was Joanna. That's the name of the book. And this is Grant, as by Grant R. Brooks. Torch of Violence, Gerald Lang. And this is David Forrest. All same book. And this is the Canadian. This was Joanna. All right, that's that. Different cover. This one is by Neil H. Perrin, Canadian writer. That's the actual writer. All right, the next one is Pagans, as by Jack Benedict, but in reality, it is Ted Steele. Ted Steele was an artist, so many of these covers have that kind of style of art. So I suspect he did some of these covers. Like this looks like Ted Steele's work. All right, so that's the Pagans. And there's this one, the American one. Let's see, cable news. Oh, NC 7A. And Jack Romaine. This is MDS. This is the Canadian. So notice, this is Ted Steele who wrote this. Right? So that's that. And then this dark title by Blentz Plagueman. Each Night a Black Desire. That's quite the title. These are really pulp novels. Bence Plageman. Each Night a Black Desire. And this is the, cable news. This is the American, for the American market. And this is the Canadian. Each Night a Black Desire. A conflict of soul and sex. Again, these are very tame. They're very, very tame compared to what's written in popular literature these days. All right, this is Offer Any Price, as by George Willis. And this is the American version. And this is the same book, but with a different title, Sweet Serenader. So, Sweet Serenader, Lusty Tale of a Professional Lover. The same book. All right, just center that a little bit. And this is Thomas P. Kelly. This is Jesse James, His Life and Death. Here's a rare Western. All right, so that's that. And here's the American version. And the Canadian. All right, so we'll pause that, and I'll show you another batch. We'll see you in a second. And this is Penthouse Killings, as by Horace Brown. All right. Then we have the American version, Penthouse Killings, and the Canadian. Similar cover. This one has a photo, beautiful cover actually. And here we have, and this is an example of the type of publisher they were. Very poor quality publishing. You can see there's misprints, a misprint, miscut, but this is obviously a publisher's mistake. All right, so this is Sin for Your Supper. And this is the Dust Jacket, as by Milton Douglas. And here is the other variant cover, Fast Bucks and Loose Women. Yeah, and I can't read that at the top. And just move that more to the center. Here's the last of the Dust Jackets that I will show. This is the last of, this is number 20. It's the last of the Dust Jackets, as by Neil H. Perrin. It's The Door in Between. And here's the American and the Canadian. All right, and just look, one last look. Like I said, this is paperback eye candy for collectors. A barrier to his savage cravings. Note the this is used paper. Anyway, so that's that. So I hope you enjoyed this look through some really vintage paperbacks. Publisher called Newsstand Library, that published back in the 1940s in the Canadian American markets. And remember to like the comments, and thanks everyone for all the subscriptions. And we'll probably reach over 1,000 as subscribers. So thanks everybody, and appreciate any comments. And if you have any detailed information, please feel free to share. These books are very uncommon. All right, thanks for watching. Okay, bye.